One of the most powerful things you can do in your business is to automate the processes that will accept current technology and automation and really free yourself up as a business owner or entrepreneur or even a manager to have the work done independent of your effort. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. And we're going to talk today about the business process optimization. So first off, are you concerned that you're going to have employees leave and gaps of your business going away? So that's the message for our business owner. Are you a professional and you're tired of doing the same task over and over again? A lot of knowledge workers face that where they have cognitive tasks that they have to do over and over again, but the majority of the task becomes routine. It becomes boring. It becomes very administrative. We have issues where we want to work less and do more. So the work's getting arduous, it's getting laborious. How can we use technology, for example, to automate things, to make it go faster, to make it be more consistent? What if we want to scale? What if right now you're the only person doing the work and you want to take it to the next level and you want to bring in an assistant, you want to bring in an apprentice, you want to bring in somebody to help you do the work more efficiently? That's where business process optimization comes in. So the first thing you need to do is determine the outcome of your activity. There's probably something before that, which is committing to a process because a lot of folks just kind of ad hoc do work or it's intuitive. But a process is the steps that you take to do a particular task. And even just reaching right here, I've got right in front of me, this is a publishing content tools outline, and it shows me what inputs and what outputs are necessary in order to create content using some of the tools that we use here. One of the key things that you got to remember with any process is it's got inputs. So there's the steps that you take, but there's the tools that you need to have on hand. There's the inputs you need for the process. All of this, if you get it down even on one page of paper, and this is written by hand, by the way, this will eventually come together into a document that goes in a binder. And I sometimes within arm's reach have those binders right here because we have guides for the office because I don't want to be thinking about what do I have to do to reconcile an account, for example. I want to just do it. And when I have someone on staff here doing it, I want them to do it the same way that I do it. Do you ever feel like if you delegate something, you might save a little bit of time, but in the long run, it's going to cost you more time because ultimately the person may not do it as good as you? Well, there are math formulas that we could talk about that will help you understand that if they are even 60% as efficient as you, following the tasks or the process that you outline, even if it's written on paper, they will save you time because again, as we've talked about in other programs, there's the every hour value of your time. That's the amount of money you make divided by the number of hours that you're living, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But there's also the time productivity of individual hours. Some of the time you're doing $5 an hour work. Sometimes you're doing $50 an hour work, and then sometimes you're doing $500 an hour work. If you could have more of that $5 to $50 an hour work being done by somebody else, you could focus on the $50 to the $500 an hour, and you'll find yourself to be much more efficient. Now, one of the things we want to do is we want to look at the steps that you take, but we don't want to tell somebody these are the steps you will take. So if you hire somebody as an assistant, my staffing arbitrage program, we talked about this, and you've probably seen many times, I've had assistants and staff, and if you go through the newsletter, you'll see ask John, ask Alex, ask so-and-so. Believe me, one of the things that we do here is we cycle through people because I like to bring up and coming folks in, get them the skill sets. In fact, we make them read these books. So this is the Executive Assistant Management Handbook. So you don't have to write a process for an assistant. You hand them a book. Now, if they don't like that one, it's Becoming an Inner Circle Assistant. Okay, that's a great book too. And then, of course, the definitive personal assistant secretarial handbook. And there's even like a little couple notes in here. So you don't even have to write the process, but the key is that your process is consistent. Now I have a unique strength that allows me to take very complex processes, break them down into plans, and that's why I'm constantly writing these, they optimize your YouTube channel plan, the instant credibility plan. Um, I think this thing, what's this right here? This is a service model for my kid. My kid is thinking about doing something. He's gonna be 16 soon. He's gonna want to drive a car. He's gonna have to buy his own car. That's just the way it is. I had to buy my own car. He's got to buy his own car. So we came up with some services that he can do. And these are things that he already does for me. But how does he know how to do social media posts, for example? How does he know how to edit YouTube videos? How does he know how to post stuff on the website or make sure the news channel's going? Well, it's because we sit down and I write out the plan on paper first. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be done. And then I sit down with him one-on-one and train him. Now, a lot of times you've seen the training I've done for my staff. So some of the posts I put on the website, you might be saying, well, Justin, why are you talking about that topic? It's not about wealth. It's not about influence. It's not about copywriting. It's about some administrative task. That's because when I hire people in the Philippines, in India, and across the United States, from Brazil, from all kinds of places, I want to make sure that they do the work consistently because the work needs to be transparent on your side. So how do we do that? We're going to talk about 5 easy steps. Number one is you want to look at the roles and responsibilities necessary to do the task. Okay, we're going to run through these real quick and then I'll give you a synthesis afterwards. Number two is you want to look at the deliverables or the outcome of the task. We don't need to do a lot of tasks that we do every day. You today might be struggling with the amount of time that you have. You're not following up with prospects enough. You're not getting out, generating enough leads. You're not reaching out to enough people. Even knowledge workers have to market like independent professionals because if you're not up on LinkedIn, you're missing the job opportunities. If you don't know how to build networks, you're missing the job opportunities. But again, if you're a professional, the same thing happens for professionals. And so what can we automate in those areas? Okay. But the automation is not important. I keep saying this, when I work in corporate environments, they want to automate everything. I want you to ask first, are you doing the right work? So talk about what resources do you have? What would you like to accomplish? What are the deliverables that you need to deliver? What's the schedule and timeline? Sometimes you have to just grunt through the work and get it done. You don't have time to write up a process before you start. But other times you've been doing the same job so many times that it's boring and there's parts that you can outsource. And I'll give you an example after this. And then finally, the last part is you need measurements. You need to be able to measure to know whether or not your efficiency has improved anything. So for example, I have an editorial guideline, and I'm really not in a situation to share my desktop here, but my editorial guideline tells me how to create content. So I'll do a 35-minute video or a 2-hour training session with clients. Somebody on staff will transcribe it, and then we'll break that down into chunks. But that presentation could have been an original outline. So all these pieces come together around an audience, and then they become the content that you see here today. Now, for this video, I just sat down and I grabbed a piece of paper off my desk. You see this outline here, and this outline has it has a title. It has the audience. So I want to talk to $1 million plus technical services, professional services, and financial services professionals who want to double or triple their profit in 12 months or more. Now, I didn't start out with the hype. I should have probably, but again, they want to more effectively work more effectively, scale more effectively, and be highly efficient. Okay, very good, very good. This is going to guide my work set. So I want you to, when we talk about business optimization, you still can do things the way you've always done it. It's okay. But we're documenting things on paper. We're building artifacts. We're determining what resources we have and which resources we don't before we start getting out the next shiny object. And then we ultimately put that together in a system. So we're going to keep walking through this example. So for this particular podcast, I picked up my little outline. This outline was produced for developing a product, and the product is the risk management and the business process optimization that we do. We can audit your vendors, and by auditing your vendors, find ways to be more effective. We can audit your day-to-day activities and find ways that you can be more effective. And the benefit of that is to be able to focus on more high-value activities, the sales and marketing, the strategy of your business, working on the business rather than in the business, and then minute things that are necessary, but you don't have to do them. Like, for example, content creation or the social media marketing. So even somebody on LinkedIn could do an interview with a professional. So one of the services that we've offered in the past, and if you're interested, we can offer it again, is that I will interview you as a professional. Now, nobody usually sees these videos because we're going to go back and forth. We're going to have some dialogue. But what happens is we transcribe these videos, and that's how you can get 12 months worth of content. I don't know if you realized, but content is the easiest part of promoting yourself as a professional, promoting yourself as a technical services provider, promoting yourself as anything. And that's kind of what we touch on in the, this is the one of the working copies, but this is kind of what we touch on establishing instant credibility, is developing the framework for making you an expert. Now you're already an expert. You're already knowledgeable about your field, but nobody sat down with you and interviewed you. Nobody's understands what you do each day. And then the key nuances, the critical factors, then package those into a process. So what I do is I interview and then we come up with the process. So whether I'm working as a risk management professional inside of a financial services firm or whatever, I'm going to interview the subject matter experts. I'm going to look at the deliverables. I'm going to look at the available resources. I'm going to see how we can make that system as effective as possible. Now, why do we do that? Well, first off, what if you as a business owner die? You get hit by a bus. Okay, it happens. What if your key employee gets all cracked up on some fentanyl because they got them back problems from sitting at the desk all day and not, and working at your, and they have a heart attack, and then they can't do the work that they're supposed to be doing? Would you lose everything that's inside their head? Would it just be gone? Would you lose that institutional insight? Well, you would in most cases, unless you've written down the basic process and outlined the basic process. Now, you don't have to have every minute detail, but you do need to have a good idea of what the hell they're doing so that you can decide, is it worth doing? Is it focusing on the outcomes that we're looking for? And does it ultimately get done in a consistent manner? Another example is with the laws, rules, and regulations. Are you collecting email addresses and generating leads for your services company? Great, you need a privacy policy. Now, if somebody ever comes along and claims that you spam them, or some lawyer tries to blackmail you, because there used to be a thing where the lawyers would contact you and they would say, you sent my client something and pay me $1,500. That used to happen with fax broadcast too. Well, you'll be able to show your privacy policy. You'll be able to find the person in your database. You'll be able to purge them out of the database. What if you're a marketer? You may have the opt-in laws, the permissions marketing laws, can spam and stuff like that. But you also may want to be able to drill down into your database and find prospects to make offers to. Okay. So there's a lot of value in key processes in your business. Now, there's a lot of ways of looking at this. There's optimization. There's business continuity. What if you have a natural disaster and you need to move the business somewhere? There's expansion. What if you need to open a new office? Would you have the key processes written down? Now, again, they can be one sheet of paper. You don't have to have a giant operational manual, and I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make. They write too much down. You really want to have the key areas we talked about overall when we were thinking about process optimization, but we want to have who's doing the work, why are they doing the work, what steps do they take, what tools do they use, and how do we measure success? Now, isn't that interesting? What you would do on the enterprise side of determining what processes you need is the same thing you do when an individual contributor is deciding what processes they need. It's like a magic. The key here is that if you do start to delegate things, I want you to first delegate stuff to roles in your own self. So you can have a consultant like me come in, and I'll interrogate you and I'll watch what you do, and you'll write down every 15 minutes what kind of work that you do, and then we'll group that work into different functional areas, and then we'll look at the role that you're playing, because you might play different roles during the day, and then we'll start building out what they call RACEs, process diagrams, and other types of organizational structures that really produce what is your operational plan. But we do this focusing on the most important work. And that's really the key. That's what I'll leave you with. And I'm just glancing at my little list here to make sure I covered everything. The key thing about processes is that not only can you scale, but you can measure efficiency. Because I'm going to leave you with this last thing. A lot of times when I hire people, I feel like, I'm doing the work pretty good and I like doing some of the work, but I have to hire this person in order to know if the work is valuable. And let me explain that to you. A lot of folks say it costs too much to hire people to help be more efficient, and then they try to work harder to solve the problem. Well, how do you know it costs too much to hire somebody if you never hired somebody? How do you know you couldn't be doing more important work? How do you know what the composition of your day is when it comes to the type of work that you're doing? And in most cases, people don't. You're too busy. You're too down in the trenches. And it really does take an analyst. It really does take somebody to come and kind of abstract out what you're doing and then present it back to you. And so if you want to start this process, here's how it works. You print out a calendar, and then as you're working through the calendar, and I don't have that binder sitting around here, but I have a binder where several years, I basically every 15 minutes wrote down what it is that I was working on. And then at the end of each day, I optimized it. I got the idea from a mentor of mine. And I'm going to tell you a really funny story. So I got that idea from a mentor of mine. And the mentor showed me that, you need to be focusing on sales activities. So I was doing a sales job. And so I would do that and I would focus my time on sales activities. Now, there were still things I had to do like data entry, bookkeeping, mowing the grass at the house. And I ended up delegating all those things out. I made so much money doing the sales that I could afford to syndicate my efforts, but I didn't make so much money that I could just hire people willy-nilly. So those critical things that still needed to be done got done. But a little secret that I'll let you know, and if my past manager sees this, I got asked one time by a manager who was giving me a hard time to write down every 15 minutes what I do. And I actually do that. These work journals that I have here, I don't know if you guys, I've shown them in other programs. These engineering notebooks, they're actually working journals. So I milestone my work, and then at the end of each week, I look over what activities were effective and what activities were ineffective. I try to do more what was effective and what was not. And that is the fastest and easiest way to get started with this. Now, I understand businesses are much more complex. And if you've got 5 to 10 employees and you're $1 million plus business, you really do want to have somebody come in and help with priorities. You kind of need somebody like me who's kind of an asshole who's going to come in and say, what is it that you want from life? And why in the hell are you not doing it? And what do we got to do to get it done? Really, if you want to be more efficient, you want to be more effective, you need the mentors like I had that said, Justin, I understand you want to sell more, but you got to be doing more selling activities in order to sell more. Hey, Justin, I understand you want more clients. Show me the client activities you're doing. And these things will help you optimize. And finally, you got to be in a position where there's upside. So if currently what you're doing is not working out, then doing more of it faster isn't going to make it work out even better. And so that third party perspective can really get you out of a grind. So I will let you know that you can simply ask questions about that. Yes, you can engage me in a client engagement, but I do have private clients, so I'm actually booked up most of the day. But ultimately, if you would like to simply just ask your questions, I do have a program about peak performance, and I can get you some excerpts about that. And I am structuring up some services that we may provide on the business optimization side, the back office automation, compliance and regulatory risk, some third-party risk management. That's like looking at your vendors to see whether they've got their ducks in a row to provide consistent work to you, to provide efficient work to you, and to provide cost quality work to you. And ultimately, some of the business marketing and business development side, like e-commerce automation, because these are the critical path areas. Really, you could spend all day doing something, but if you're going to do anything, why not do what is important? And again, an outsider like myself, you can do it in pairs. You can team people up, so you can ask about that if you like. But you can also have your staff write up the process and you can review it. The key is keep it simple, keep it measurable, and use the resources you've got. Because if you find out the resources you have aren't good enough to do this job, you get new resources. You don't keep the old ones. You get new ones. And that's one of the reasons why I'll cycle through so many virtual assistants and interns and stuff, is because once they get trained up, they're worth way more than I can afford to pay them. And ultimately, they either move up to be my project manager, or they move out and work for another organization, or the contract's wrapped up and we go on to do something else. But ultimately, this type of skill set, the ability to identify important work, to package it into processes, and then from that process, develop the system to effectively deliver outcomes and to ultimately measure performance, you're going to be able to know what works and what does not. And that is how you build wealth. That is how you double or even triple the profits you gain from an organization. Again, you're doing a lot of stuff in the business. You're doing a lot of stuff as a professional, but if you were doing the most important things, that contributed overhead would go down tremendously. Very often you can outsource that, and next thing you know is you've got profits. All the profits that you need and desire. And of course, your free net cash flow is what you invest in to create net worth. Your free net cash flow is what you reinvest to grow an organization. Your free net cash flow is what you drive volume with in order to get the numbers you're looking for. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets, and we've been talking about business automation solutions, how to approach the business processes in your organization, how to fit automation in where appropriately, and how to ultimately optimize the processes you have in business. If you have any questions about this or anything I cover, visit me at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. And I encourage you to go to the contact page and ask your questions. Join our free newsletter. This is where high income professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs get results in this lifetime. And very quickly, might I add, when you've got that third party perspective, they really cut through the BS and focus on results. Be sure to like and subscribe, make some comments. I don't always get to see the comments, so it's always best to visit the website at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. But somebody in my office is responsible for looking for that stuff, and they're going to find 60% of them unless you go direct, and I will actually see your email. So again, I'm Justin Hitt. This has been about business process optimization.